Hello, my name is April and welcome to the 5-minute grant making sessions, measuring impact in research and sponsored projects. So what is impact? It's essentially the difference between the world without your project and the world with it. So you're talking about quantifiable measures in the effects of your project. You're also talking about qualitative analyses of the effects of your project. You're talking about contributions of your project to scientific knowledge advancement. And you're also talking about contributions of your current project to maybe a long-term work plan that you have for your research area or the service you're trying to provide to the community, whatever it is long term, so you have a current contribution that you can measure. During your proposal stage, when you're working on your proposal, you're essentially creating estimates of what is expected in direct and indirect outcomes of your project. So essentially the takeaway in terms of how do I measure impact and what is this all about is really about identifying the components of your project that may generate impact measures. So we have some examples that we can go into. So example one is a foundation level design, and it's with the Hearst Foundations, and I can show you their website just for 1 second. They have their funding priorities, and one of them is, for example, college access and college success. So let's say that your design is looking at that. So you're looking at college access and success, and you're bringing in 200 high school seniors. You're giving them a scholarship for 6 credits at UNLV. You have 20 mentors in your project. You have support to these students for them to apply to other projects in UNLV. You have research investigating the transition from the high school to college and all of that. So your design is looking great. How do you translate that into impact? So you can quantify a few items: 200 life-changing experiences, 200 families positively impacted, 200 new college enrollments if they all enroll at the end of the program, and you have 20 mentors that participate. Maybe you produce a paper, a conference presentation, things like that you can quantify. And then you have a qualitative level of impact that you can also bring in, which is the positive influence in the communities, maybe some motivational aspects in completing college, maybe increase in trust of these students and their mentors and things like that you can bring in. And you would mention these aspects throughout the narrative of your project and also in a final impact statement, just so the reviewer of your project can sort of have that takeaway at the end, summarizing all the impact elements of your project. So we have a second example, the WT Grant Foundation, for example. They have the use of research evidence opportunity here. So let's just say you're going to apply for that, and in your design you have mostly investigation in what has been done. You're looking into dissemination efforts, and you're trying to understand if those have been going well or if they can be improved. And you interview decision makers, you interview other PIs, and you have analysis midway. You have an intervention that you propose to test if you can improve dissemination efforts with what you're learning. So you have a really strong design going on, and then how do you translate that into impact so you can quantify? You have 50 PIs reevaluating their dissemination now. You have 50 decision makers involved that were talking to you. You have one intervention model that you might propose for future studies. You have 5 studies in your intervention. You have measurements of impact of these 5 studies. So, how did your intervention generate impact? That is impact for your study as well. And maybe your papers and conference presentations. Maybe you create a website to discuss your ongoing effort with the community that you're building around the dissemination efforts. All of that is quantifiable. And in the qualitative level, you might understand how the PIs feel about dissemination, how the decision makers feel about it, what are their thoughts, what are their personal motivations, and things like that. Again, you would mention that in the narrative, and you would mention it in final impact statements. In another example, we have IES. This would be a federal level application. And in one of the main IES opportunities, they have a few tracks and areas. One of them is cognition and student learning. And let's just say that that's what you're applying for. So your design is relatively simple. You're looking into artificial intelligence as an aim, again, because the sponsor is asking for that. So identification of how AI applications in education. So you picked up on that and you create your design around something the sponsor is already interested in. And then in your design, it's relatively simple. You have 50 students, you have a treatment and a control group. It's not as big as one of those, community service type projects, but still, you can still quantify that in impact with 25 students in a treatment group, with the instructor that is involved, the papers that you produce, conference presentations. Maybe you have online webinars that you run every semester. Maybe you have some school leadership presentations that you do. You do a little tour around schools to show leaders what you have learned and maybe articulate with them something they could apply in their schools. And in the qualitative level, you'll understand the experiences of the students with AI and with the instructors with AI, and you can build something around that. You have a good potential of advancing knowledge, influencing the new curriculum that comes out from the federal government, from other sources, and you have a ability to influence AI-related policy as well, which is also a big point of discussion. Again, you would add this in your narrative, and you would mention it in the final impact statement as well. And then for a final example, you could look at an NSF, another federal level one. They have some areas, for example, that they look into. One of them is research on STEM learning and learning environments. So let's just say that that's what you're picking up on for your design, and you have you're looking into creativity in STEM learning, for example. Something very simple, not related to technology directly or anything like that. But you have, again, a similar design where you have a control group. You have maybe 3 different treatment groups with different ways of exploring creativity through the learning process. And so you have a few people involved in your project, and you have your design going, and it looks good. And how do you quantify that? So you literally can count the students that participate, the instructors. Maybe you have more than one university. You have a collaborating university, a sub-award in your proposal. That counts as impact 2. Now you're increasing the impact to 2 universities. You have now more papers, perhaps, and conference presentations. And again, you could explore the online space with webinars and a website and things like that. And you can even create things like a guidebook for to distribute for free about how educators could implement these creativity interventions that you have been experimenting with. So in the qualitative side, again, you're talking about the experiences of those involved, and you can talk about that in your impact statement as well. You have all this potential to advance knowledge, and also perhaps a potential for interdisciplinary discussion as well, because creativity might involve other areas, not just education. Maybe there's some art folks that might want to participate in the discussion. Maybe there are other areas where creativity is big, so you can bring that into your impact statement as well. Again, you would mention that throughout the narrative, and you would mention it in a final impact statement so the reviewer remembers that. So what's the final takeaway from this idea of measuring impact? Is really answering to this core question: what is the difference between the world without your project and with it? If you answer that question well, you have a good impact statement. So this is it for this video. I hope this helps you creating your impact statement and measuring impact in your project, and I'll see you in the next video.